Report out today warning that credit card debt may be becoming a long-term financial burden for middle-class or middle-income Americans. The report from Primerica shows 31% of people saying their credit card balances have increased in the last 3 months. Only 15% report a decrease in balances. 38% are more concerned about their credit card debt now more than a year ago. Joining us now is Primerica CEO Glenn Williams. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Thanks, Chesley. Great to be with you this morning.
All right. How do, when you hear those stats, how worried are you?
Well, it's certainly very concerning. Credit card usage has always been a challenge for the middle-income families that we serve, but we've seen over the last 4 or 5 years the increasing pressure, financial pressure in these families as the cost of living has outpaced their income growth. And we see families filling that gap more and more often with credit card usage, using the cards more, carrying larger balances for longer, and falling behind on their payments. So it's an area of significant concern.
Yeah, I mean, it's becoming kind of a financial lifeline for folks, and you almost feel like some people have to use them. So what do we do?
Well, there's no question that they're important in an emergency situation or in a time of high stress. But I think a lot of families don't always consider the long-term implications of those balances building, extraordinarily high interest rates that they're paying, which are working against them. And really, it takes a moment of clarity and really understanding the cost of this. And then most families will say, okay, I see what's happening to my finances for the future. Can I get some help in understanding how to pay these cards down, eliminate the cards I don't need, and instead replace it with more positive use of compound interest, which is on the savings side of the ledger. And so those are conversations we're having more and more often with families each day.
Yeah, you talked about the positive side, the positive use. What about those who, use it for their basic needs like groceries and gas? What do you tell them, or what does that tell you about the broader state of the middle class households right now?
That's another indication of the financial pressure that these families are under, and that's often the path of least resistance, the first go-to. But when we sit down with families and explain to them the long-term implications, we try to encourage them to reprioritize. And in almost every household, there's some waste somewhere, whether it's subscription services that are not being used, it's a $5 or $7 coffee at the drive-thru every morning instead of a few cents to take one with you. Almost every family can reprioritize. And then we encourage those families to take what they free up and put it against those debts, and let's pay those balances down.
So you're basically saying, hey, look, at all costs, don't use the credit card? Would you say that?
Well, I wouldn't say at all costs, but we should use them for emergency situations. We should use them for long-term durable goods that make sense. They'll still have a value when the payments are done.
Uh-oh, did we lose him?
On in minutes, and the bill lingers for years.
All right. So now, what would be the long-term implications if this trend continues? What do you think that's going to be?
Well, we've always known that middle-income families have struggled to save for the important goals of the future, primarily for retirement. And so I think the largest implication is it's going to further put stress on families' ability to save for retirement, for education of their children. It first hurts their long-term goals because those small amounts that can be saved over a long period of time that build into something important are instead used to pay off the cost of this credit. So the first place I think it's going to hurt families is in their long-term goals, but as it gets worse and worse, it can start eating into their short-term financial stability as well. So it's something, first of all, awareness is critical, and that's what we want to get the word out as a result of our financial security monitor, and then help families put a plan together to deal with this.
Is that what policymakers, employers, and companies like yourself can do for the middle class to get this thing rectified a little bit here?
Well, it starts with awareness. It starts with information. I think we can all help with that. We're privileged to be in more than 50,000 homes across the U.S. and Canada each month, helping families with their finances. And often the very first conversation we have is how to eliminate debt, how to set a debt freedom date when you know you'll have this behind you. And so that's what we do for middle-income families. And we feel honored to be able to help address this issue. It's a real concern.
Glenn, what do you say to people that say, man, I hear you talking, but this is so hard. I have no new money coming in, and now you want me to, try to prioritize. What do you say to them?
Well, it is. It can be very discouraging. And that's why having someone from your community that has dealt with the same situation you have come in and give you some advice, give you some guidance, talk about the options, and help you reprioritize, which is almost always what's necessary, and then stay with you because, the first decision is tough, but it gets tougher after that. It's being committed to the decision to reduce those credit card usage, reduce the balances, pay them off, and so forth. And so having someone beside you to help you along the way is very important. And that's one of the advantages we feel like we have in the marketplace.
There you go. Glenn Williams, thanks so much for your insight and all these tips today, man. It was great information. Thank you.
Great being with you. Thank you.
All right.